Hello, welcome to The Moment. This time I'll be talking about what's to come of the abandoned County Hall site in Ashinton, and I'll also be looking at a report into pay and morale in the police. So let's turn to the first story. The location for the scrapped new council headquarters in Ashinton has been left in limbo for nearly a year. This site in Portland Park was set aside by the previous council when they planned to sell the current county hall in Morpeth and relocate to a new facility. The council hall site in Morpeth was going to be replaced with a retail park that would be opposite a new school, and there was also going to be some planned housing developments. This had sparked protests and eventually led to the council being replaced by a new Conservative council. Subsequently, the site in Ashinton has been left abandoned, with residents wondering what's going to replace the planned building. A Change.org petition has been started to develop the site. It reads, quote, "As Ashinton residents, over the last year we feel as though we've been deserted by the new administration. A huge hole has been left in the middle of our town with absolutely no plans to develop it. We have been left in the dark with no updates from Northumberland County Council or the new Chair of Arch. As Ashinton residents, we demand, before the 4th of May, a clear and detailed update with the current situation, a clear and concise plan to develop the whole, a rundown of costs for the cancellation of the county hall being built on the site, and an apology to all Ashinton residents for leaving our town in such a mess with nearly no updates or communication." To date, this petition has received over 1,000 signatures, and according to the Chronicle, quote, "The Conservative administration say work is moving forward to bring a cinema, shops and restaurant to the site. Last month, council leader Peter Jackson said £10 million had been spent on road, drainage and utility infrastructure works at the site, which would still prove useful, and claimed that £4.1 million was the figure lost on the scrapped headquarters move scheme, which he said the current council would not have sanctioned. Councillors say £150,000 has been released to move the new Ashinton site onto the next stage. Councillor Richard Wearmouth, the portfolio holder for economic regeneration, is quoted as saying, "The previous council spent years getting bogged down trying to move County Hall a few miles at the cost of tens of millions of pounds to Northumberland taxpayers. When the new administration took charge less than a year ago, one of the first things we did was guarantee the work would continue at Portland Park to put in the critical road and other infrastructure. We went on to consult with hundreds of residents who told us they wanted to see a cinema with additional retail and a proper bus station. We commissioned studies that proved the option preferred by local people was practical and are now pursuing that option. The latest stage has seen the board of the council's regeneration company release £150,000 in funds to take those works to the next stage. The next steps are an outline planning application for the project and work to try to secure a cinema operator and additional retailers that will complement the existing offering on Station Road." So now let's turn to the final story. Callum MacLeod, chairman of the Police Federation, has said that 8 out of 10 police officers suffer depression and anxiety due to being overworked. According to the Chronicle, he, quote, said a lack of resources in police welfare departments have slashed the support available to stressed officers, while Freedom of Information requests have revealed frontline staff in some forces were due as much as a week of rest days last year. Durham Constabulary frontline staff had 10,590 rest days cancelled as of September 2017, and Northumbria Police's 3,335 officers were owed 9,796 rest days as of October the 10th, 2017. The story then mentions a Police Federation report from last year that talks about officers' pay and morale in 2016 to 17. So let's take a look at that report. It starts by saying that 30,557 officers took part in the survey between April and June 2017, and that the sample size was large enough for the results to be considered accurate. In the section on pay and remuneration, they say, quote, 72.5% of respondents said they felt financially worse off now than they did 5 years ago. More than 1 in 10 said they either never or almost never had enough money to cover all their essentials, and around 1 in 6 probationers said they either never or almost never had enough money to cover essentials. 86.5% of respondents did not feel fairly paid considering the stresses of their job. 6.3% said they had a second job. However, respondents were not asked what this was or their reasons for having a second job. Only 42.6% said that they had enough money to cover all their essentials every month. In terms of pensions, quote, respondents were asked whether their pension increased their intention to stay in or leave the police. 41.3% said that their pension increased their intention to stay, compared to 30% who said it increased their intention to leave. There were also 28.9% of respondents who said that it had no effect on their intentions. They continue to say, quote, the 41.3% were asked what it was that increased their intention to stay. The most common reason, cited by 2/3 of those respondents, was that the pension was good compared to other jobs. In addition, 40.6% of those respondents said the ability to retire at an earlier date than most people increased their intention to stay. The 30% who said that their pensions increased their intention to leave were asked their reasons, and the most common reasons were that they did not trust the government to not change their pension for the worse again in the future, and also that due to recent changes, their pension was different to what they were led to expect. So now I'll look at the section on morale. 60.2% of respondents said that their own personal morale was low. The proportion reporting low morale was larger than in 2016, where 55.9% reported low morale, although 2015 was the worst, as 70.2% had low morale then. Around 9 out of 10 respondents said their force morale and that of the police in general was low. In terms of factors affecting morale, the most common was how the police as a whole are treated, with 84.9% saying it had a negative effect and only 3.9% saying it was positive. Pay and benefits were the third most common factor, with 72.9% saying they had a negative effect, compared to 70.9% in 2016. Two of the other biggest negative effects to morale came from work-life balance and workload and responsibilities at 65.3% and 61.1% respectively. Now, all of these numbers do sound very dire, and there's no doubt that the police are stretched currently, but these figures are only the responses of the 30,500 or so officers and staff who responded to the surveys, so it's important to take them with a grain of salt. However, the major problem with this survey is that it doesn't really go into specifics about the terms it's using. When they talk about attitudes to the police, they don't specify if this is a general negative feeling from the public or actual physical or verbal abuse. There's also a section where they talk about police being fairly treated, but what does fairly treated mean in this setting? However, this document is the best current source on the attitude within the police to the various factors that are affecting them. It would just be better if there was more of an idea of meaning here. And that's all for this episode. Be sure to join me in a fortnight's time for more from around Northumberland and Newcastle. Until then, I'm Oliver Ralph, and this is The Moment.